Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about drumming. As a producer and working doing production of songs and songs for film and whatnot, I find that the drummer is the most important person, whether it comes to a band, a session, all that stuff. And to me, I wanted to share with you today a little bit of who I think are some of my favorite drummers out there. I almost said best, but it's funny because when people talk a lot about, oh, this guy's the best or that guy's the best, I'm always like, what's your criteria? What are we talking about here? Because especially not so much on the West Coast, although there are some Neil Peart fans, or Pert, however you pronounce it. I think he pronounces it Peart. But anyways, there are people who will be like, Neil Peart's the greatest drummer in the world, and it's like, for what criteria? For playing in Rush, he's absolutely the best guy in Rush, in my opinion. Is he the best drummer in the world? What's your criteria? What are you basing your chart on? And I always see this when I see like album reviews, or I see guitar players in Rolling Stone, like, here are the top guitar players, and it's like they put Jimi Hendrix up there, and it's like, Jimi Hendrix was great. And if you love that music, well, then he's even more special to you, because for that time he was great. But there are people today who are doing far more technical stuff, and so that can't be the criteria, or can it? And so you don't know what the criteria is. And I think there's just so many great. I mean, if someone's on a record and it's recorded and they played on it, they're probably pretty damn good. And oh, look at the light behind. Well, no, it's that light right there. It's doing some blinking. Anyways, it's like, it's funny because I always think like, well, what do you think is a great player? Well, what makes up a great player? What in And you can post this in the comments if you'd like to tell me what you think makes up the criteria for a great player, whether it be guitar player, bass, drums. I mean, I think everybody has their own idea, so therefore the list becomes almost like a popularity contest of who's people's favorites. And so that's really what I want to talk today is favorites. Obviously, playing professionally that I have and worked with people who I have, I definitely have a strong criteria for what's going to make them in that list of my favorites. And, some people don't really look at that, especially like on the local live scene. There's some drummers out there, but like obviously timing for me is a big thing. Um, but like Bill Ward from Black Sabbath, who's always said he had terrible timing, that he plays in orchestra time, is a great drummer, one of my favorites. But again, one of my criteria would be timing, and there I just said right there, he's not the best at timing. But so there's so many great players. One player I want to give a shout out to is Cam Igo. Cam's a 12-year-old. I think he's going to be 13 in July, I think. But anyway, he's from Marshfield, plays drums, and I've been mentoring him. We've been going over drummers like Jeff Porcaro and Bernard Purdie, and he's been learning. In fact, I'll put in my description his video that he did for Green Earrings, which is Bernard Purdie for Steely Dan. But check out his page. He's Drummer Boy 135 on YouTube. Getting back to drummers. So, it's hard to, when you're making up a list of like what you think what's the favorites, which would be, I guess people always say the best. And I don't think they say it with bad intention of them saying like they know. I think it's them just saying their favorite. So here I just want to be hyper correct where I'm saying these are my favorites. So, and not really even in any particular order, but then I'll also give you some songs to look up, and then maybe I'll give you my favorites, and then I'll give you a few that you may never have heard of that you should check out, and check out certain songs, because I'll mention songs as we go. Obviously, one of my all time favorites is Vinnie Colaiuta. Vinny, I got to work with Vinny. Vinny was awesome. I mean, it was like we banged out 17 songs in like a day and a half. And in that day and a half, we did a lot of coffee housing and talking. There was no panic whatsoever to get out to lay these songs down. He he walked in. I'm trying to think when he sat down at the kit and we finally started looking at like recording. He looked at the chart and then he put it down. And then he was reading the whole time and like laughing to himself. And at the end of the song, which was a perfect take, I said, Vinny, what was so funny on the chart? He's like, oh no, it's not the chart. Your chart's on the floor. I was laughing. I was reading an email. This guy, like, just unbelievable. I mean, just working with him was like, it was unbelievable. But one of my favorites, and something that I would tell you to check out from Vinny, from me, would be check out Gino Vanelli's Nightwalker album. Santa Rosa and Stay With Me. Those two songs are fantastic. If you want to give yourself if you're a drummer and you want to give yourself a workout just trying to figure out what he's doing, check out Keep It Greasy by Frank Zappa. Cam and I have gone over that one there, and there's a section there that's in 1916, and then another section in 2116. And it's just, it's good stuff because regardless of with the crazy time signatures, it has a really nice flow to it, and it's a great song. But definitely for Vinny, my recommendation is to check out a pop album, which is Gino Vanelli's Nightwalker record, and hear what he does in that. In fact, I'm going to be bringing up Gino Vanelli again later on because he always works with amazing drummers. So, another one of my favorite drummers of all time would be Jeff Porcaro. What can I say about Jeff? All the Toto songs, Rosanna, These Chains, that shuffle that he does on both those. I always go back and forth which one I like better, but These Chains just are so smooth. The 16th note feel he does on I Keep Forgetting by Michael McDonald is great. Um, Black Friday. Uh, yeah, there's so much great stuff with him. For me, my favorite feel would be the one on would be that I Keep Forgetting. Just the groove he plays on that. And I know he had a hell of a time with it. And I think he says in the middle of the song he broke a stick, and you can hear the stick break in the middle of the song. I haven't gone back to check, but I seen him in an interview where he talked about that. And for a guy who's been on so many records and he's been passed since 1992, I mean, you can't go a couple of days without hearing his songs on the radio. He's on a couple of Michael Jackson songs. Obviously, he plays on Human Nature and Beat It. He plays on Mother for on Pink Floyd's The Wall. He's played on just countless records. The whole Boz Scaggs Silk Degrees record. Great stuff. Another one of my favorite drummers is the drummer Mark Craney. Mark played with Jethro Tull. He's done a lot of jazz records, but he's also played with Gino Vanelli, and that's the one I wanted to bring up again. He played on the Brother to Brother album that had I Just Wanna Stop, which is a great song. But he plays on that album, and you've got to listen to the song Brother to Brother. Google it, check out the drumming on it. There's actually a great live in Montreal with Enzo Tedesco, and he kills it. But the original one, there's a live one from like 1980. Is it 80? Yeah, with Gino wearing all white. But Mark Craney's just awesome. I mean, the guy, it's great stuff. I highly recommend checking him out as a drummer. He's just phenomenal. Yeah, it's just killer stuff. Which moves me on to Bernard Purdie. I could give you a list of songs he played on. Ooh Child by the Five Stair Steps. He did the Orpheus song, Can't Find the Time. He's played on, God, so many great records. My favorite Bernard Purdie record, well, the thing that he played on was probably Home at Last, playing the Purdie Shuffle with Steely Dan. Although Green Earrings on the Royal Scam's a great one. But if you want to check out some rarer recordings, there's a great band called Raw Stylus. They were, I think, on my list of albums to check out. But that's Bernard Purdie on there. But yeah, I mean, Home at Last is probably my favorite. Or Babylon Sisters by Steely Dan. That shuffle. Purdie's awesome. Just played on, I mean, countless records. He's one of the guys. And that's why he's one of my favorites, is because when I hear him, like, I know we played on Ooh Child, because I heard that song one night and I was like, who the heck is killing it on the drums? It's all about that groove. And of course it was Purdie. And that happens a lot with me, and it also happens with my next favorite drummer, which is Roger Hawkins. Roger Hawkins was in the Swampers. He was the Muscle Shoals drummer. He played on Polk Salad Annie. He played on Polk Salad Annie with Tony Joe White, and then he played on all the early Aretha songs. He's on so many records. What was that band? I'll Take You There. The Staple Singers. I mean, when he lays down that groove, he just has it. It's like one of those things that when you hear they have it, they have it. I mean, there's so many great drummers out there. I mean, I could tell you, I could go through all the jazz guys, Chad Wackerman, Dave Weckl. I mean, all phenomenal drummers. But I'm just bringing up, like, who are my favorites, like, when I hear certain things. Another one would be, like, David Palmer. David used to play with, he was originally in ABC. And he was also in The. And he now plays for Rod Stewart. Check out, there's a song by The called Good Morning Beautiful that he plays this killing groove. And years ago, when I used to work at West LA Music, he came in. Well, he used to be pretty much a regular in there. And he came in one day and I'm like, Dave, I got to hear that Good Morning Beautiful groove. We had a kit set up. Oh, and he was like, set it up, put like a piccolo kit, a drum, a piccolo snare over there. And he was and once he started playing, it was like, wow, this guy is like, there's something special about this guy, because I've worked with some great drummers, and this guy just laid down. It was just awesome. It sounded like a record. It sounded compressed. I mean, everything about his playing, every hit was perfect. He's just a great, great drummer. Another one of my favorites is a guy named Steve Jensen that plays with David Sylvian. He used to be in the band Japan. And a song for you to check out that I totally love his feel on is a song, God, it would be nice if I knew the names of these songs. What the heck's the name of that? Taking the Veil. So anyways, Taking the Veil by David Sylvian is great. And Steve Jensen's just great on it. I mean, there's a few guys that play like metal stuff that I really like. Joel Maitoza from the 24/7 Spies album that I brought up is an awesome drummer. As is the drummer for Slipknot, Joey Jordison. I hope I'm saying his name right. I worked with Ray Luzier, and Ray's just one of the best metal hard rock drummers around. Just unbelievable how he can work any feel out. But for the most part, I tend to like the guys who have a little bit of a groove sensibility, and all these guys that I mentioned have groove, and that's that's one of my criteria, is the ability to have that groove, to swing, and to be able to play, to make my head go like this. And that's something, like I said, when I went and saw Rush, a friend of mine was like, "Oh man, you're gonna flip out when you see him live." And he was talking about Neil. And I went and I was like, yeah, he sounds better on records to me. This is like, I found it a little, it doesn't meet my criteria of what I dig. And not to say that I'm right and you're wrong. I'm smart, you're dumb. No, it has nothing to do with any of that. It's just what I like. Obviously, Neil Peart's made quite a career for himself, and Rush is a great band. But, like for me, Bill Bruford in that progressive rock stuff, to me, did more for me. I feel the grooves that I heard him play in King Crimson, in Yes, in his band Bruford. By the way, if you ever get a chance, I think the album's called One of a Kind with Alan Holdsworth on it, but it's a Bruford album. Oh, it's unbelievable. It is great. But, yeah, there's so many great drummers out there, and this. I just hope I gave you a few to check out if you're not familiar with those records that I told you to check out. And we'll be talking soon. Very good.